Today we will be identifying sampling errors and bias samples, and then also bias questions. So let's take a look at the first few problems that you'll end up seeing are going to ask us about which sample may be biased, and we got to explain why. So let's figure out what this word bias means. First of all, bias sampling means a sample that does not, that's a key word there, does not fairly represent the population. Remember, the population is everybody in the everybody that's worthy of this question. So, for instance, the population of El Dorado County is every single citizen in El Dorado County. Random samples and systematic samples that randomly select the first item are not biased. Convenience and self-selected samples are biased. So we talked about in the last lesson, 7-7, the different types of samples, the random, systematic, convenience, and self-selected. So what we're looking for are any things that are biased are going to be ones that are either convenience or self-selected samples. When we see the word random sample, we know it's a good sample. So let's take a look at the first one here. Gemma works at a dairy. And it doesn't matter that she works at a dairy or not, but she chooses 50 containers of milk at random to check the quality of the milk. So again, she works in the dairy, so she might be biased in making sure that the quality of the milk's good, but we're thinking of her as a good citizen. She wants to make sure that she's producing good products. So we're not concerned with her working at the dairy, but she gets these 50 containers of milk at random, and that's the key. So whenever you see the word random, then you know everything's okay. So we would say not biased. And the reason is because not biased because Gemma chooses the milk or the samples at random. And so that's the key. So whenever you see that word random, then you know, okay, things are all okay. It's not going to be a biased sample. So there's our answer. So Brian works at a factory that makes light bulbs. He checks the first 30 light bulbs that are produced one morning in order to ensure quality of that day's production. So what kind of sampling did he do? Did he do a random sample? Did he do a systematic, convenience, or self-selected? Definitely not self-selected. Self-selected is when you choose either to do it or not to do it. You're volunteering. Well, the light bulbs don't have a choice. So it's either going to be convenience, random, or systematic. It's not random since he just chose the first 30. It's not systematic since he didn't choose every third one. He just chose the first 30. So this is a convenience sample. So we'll say Brian used a convenience sample. And the problem with convenience samples is that they might have had a really good worker at that time, or maybe the production equipment just turned on, it's not overheating or anything, but then maybe in the afternoon it gets a little hot, or it just doesn't produce the light bulbs as well for whatever reason. Maybe they don't have as good of employees in the afternoon, or some other kind of thing can happen that might make the light bulbs not be as good later on, or maybe they're better later on than they are in the morning. So using a convenience sample is not a good way to go. And so we'll say that Brian used a convenience sample, so the sample is biased. And looking at the next one, determine whether each survey question may be biased or not. And so what we're looking at, first of all, a biased question is a question that leads people to a certain answer. So people oftentimes use biased questions to make it seem like their point is the one that we should go with. However, what we're looking for are key words. So look for those key words that persuade. Persuade means to make the person want to follow whatever that other individual was saying. So we would look for key words that persuade the reader. So let's take a look at the first one here. What do you think of the proposal to build world-class sports arenas in our city? World-class. Does that tell you that it's a really nice sports arena or just a regular old sports arena? So world-class, right there, that word right there, those two words tell us that and they really want us to go with this sports arena because they're going to make it world class that everybody wants to come here, and so that we'll earn a lot more revenue with people going out to dinner and whatnot. So the key, it's biased, we'll say, biased due to the words world class. So those words right there tell us that it might be better than it really is. So due to the words world class, that makes that question biased. How much money do you think the federal government should spend on protecting our planet's irreplaceable and precious resources? So right here, these two words right here, these two words make that question biased. You see, if they hadn't used those two words, if they had just said, how much money do you think the federal government should spend on protecting our planet's resources, that would not be biased. But due to these two words here, these two words make this question biased because they're trying to persuade you that these precious resources or these resources are more important than, at least important enough to spend money on. And so we'll say biased due to the words irreplaceable and precious. So due to certain key words, then a question can be biased. And so that's what you're going to end up looking for as you do tonight's homework. Good luck. And in part 2, we'll have questions on the second half of tonight's homework.